Okay, so good morning, everybody. Great to see everyone here on the Zoom. And it is Sunday morning, the 5th of February, coming to you live from Yerushalayim. Okay, so tonight, actually here already, it's Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat, which is a holiday on the Jewish calendar, one that probably is not all that well known, although people have heard of it. Somehow, it has something to do with fruits, and you eat fruits on Tu B'Shvat, and it's the holiday of the trees in Israel. People plant trees, but it's actually a very holy and special day. Tonight at 6:30 at L'Chaim Center, we're having a very, very cool event with this guy Yaakov Lehman, who I actually know. He's quite a cool guy, a hippie chassid, I guess you could say, Hasidic hippie. And he's going to be doing a sort of out of the box Kabbalistic experience for Tu B'Shvat. So I recommend everybody going to that. It's at 6:30. Sign up. It's going to be really interesting. I wish I could be there, but I know Yaakov, and he's an interesting guy. And it's going to be fun. Now Tu B'Shvat is, the Rosh Hashanah for trees. Now, that has a very technical meaning in terms of practical Jewish law, and that is that in Israel there's a whole very complex system of an agricultural system that's based on an annual cycle, and depending upon what year in the 7-year cycle we're in, there are different rules and laws that apply to the trees and the fruits and the vegetation and everything. It's quite complicated. One of the exciting things about living in Israel is you have to, learn these laws and deal with them. In America, you can just ignore them. But the Rosh Hashanah for trees has to do with when the cycle renews itself each year. So, for example, fruits that budded yesterday are considered to be fruits of a different year than fruits that bud tomorrow. And there are ramifications regarding tithings and all these different things, which I won't get too involved in because it's complicated. But one of the things that I just wanted to say about this holiday is it's also a time to reflect on what we can learn from trees. And the reason why I say that is because there's a verse in the Torah, a verse in the book of Deuteronomy that says, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, that human beings are like the trees in the field. There's a comparison that the Torah itself makes between us and trees. So that means that if you ponder and you think about and you meditate on different qualities or aspects or things that we can learn from trees, then those ideas should apply to us as well. So it's actually quite an interesting exercise to think about, what do we learn from trees that apply to human beings also. So I'm just going to give you two thoughts, and then we're going to move on to our regular topic, which is the path of the just. But a good thing to think about and a good way to spend some quiet time on Tu B'Shvat is to take this exercise further and think about, what do we learn from trees? What are things that we understand about trees that we can apply to our own lives? So I'll give you two examples. One is a famous story in the Talmud. There was an individual, a rabbi, a sage, one of the great scholars in the Talmud, who was named Choni HaMagal. That was his name. Choni was his name. Magal was his nickname. Has to do with a different story in the Talmud, which I don't want to go into right now. But Choni HaMagal was once, the Talmud records, was once walking along the way, and he saw an old man. And that old man was planting a tree. And what was he planting? What kind of tree was he planting? He was planting a carob tree. Now, the Talmud points out that carob trees take 70 years before they bear their first fruit. So from the time you plant the carob tree until it bears its first fruit, the Talmud says is 70 years. I think, if you plant a carob tree in your backyard today, I don't think it's going to take 7 years. But in the times of the Talmud, the way things were, that's how it was. So Choni Hamagal says to this man, he says, 70 years, he says, you're never going to see the fruits of these tree. You're planting this tree, but you're never going to eat its fruit. Why are you bothering? So the man responded, he said, Kishem she'avosai natu le'etzim, just like my ancestors, those who came before me, planted trees so that I would come into the world and would live in a world with trees, so too ani notea avur nechti. So too I am planting trees for my grandchildren, so that my grandchildren will come into this world and have beautiful fruit trees. And I think there's a very important lesson that we learn from this story, and it's one to think about today on Tu B'Shvat, and that applies very much to our lives. And that is that as Jews, as human beings, but really as Jews, Judaism demands that we have a long-term perspective on life, a vision, not to just live in the present. If a person lives in the present, if that man were just living in the present, he would never plant a carob tree in his old ripe age, because why would he ever do something as foolish as that? He's doing something now that's going to reap no benefit for him whatsoever. But as Jews, we're encouraged not to look at the world in terms of the immediate results of my actions, but rather to think in a very broad perspective, think in terms of the future, and to do the things now that we need to do to guarantee a brighter future. Now, that can mean a lot of things. That can mean a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren, or for the world. And that can also mean, on a deeper spiritual level, a brighter future for ourselves, meaning that there are things that we do in this world that, even though we don't see the immediate benefit of them, but what they're doing is they're planting trees, the fruits of which we shall reap in the world to come, when we enter into the realm of eternal existence. Right? Judaism says that every human being has a soul, and that soul is eternal, and as such, that soul never disappears, and there is a world to come, and there's an afterlife, and that the quality of our experience in the afterlife is 100% determined by our actions, our thoughts, our words, our choices in this world. So there are things that we can do. I can do a mitzvah now. I can do a small act of kindness for somebody, or I can put on a pair of tefillin, or I can choose to eat kosher food instead of eating non-kosher food, or any number of mitzvahs that I could do. And even though there may seem to be no immediate benefit to me from doing the mitzvah, but what I'm doing is I'm planting a tree which I myself even will ultimately reap in the world to come. So the lesson from trees, the first lesson that we take away from trees, from this story of Choni Hamagal and the old man who was planting the carob tree, is that we have to do things. We have to be willing to invest and to work hard and to make sacrifices and to commit and to do things that are difficult, and even things that are difficult that are going to show no immediate results that we may not even see in our lifetime, both for those who come after us, but also for ourselves and our experience in the world to come. That is a very powerful message that we can take directly from the fact that human beings are compared to the tree of the field. That's one. And the other one is another beautiful idea that I wanted to share. It's something, it's quoted in Pirkei Avos, and I'll read it to you. It says, this is from Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, one of the rabbis of the time of the Mishnah. It's mentioned in the Pesach Haggadah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he says famously, Kol shechachmaso meruba mimaasav. Anybody whose wisdom supersedes or dominates or is predominant over his actions, meaning that he's looked upon as being a brilliant person or a scholarly person or a wise person, or is somehow respected for his intellect, but his actions, his good deeds, his kindness, the way he treats other people, the way he treats his spouse, the way he treats his children, the way he is in his business affairs, all of these things are less than exemplary. Okay, so he's a very brilliant person. He's respected intellectually. He might be one of the great leaders in his academic field, but the guy is a low life, or he's not even a low life. He's just he doesn't do things for other people. He's not acting with chesed and with kindness and with consideration. He's not a selfless person. He's not a giving person. He's not a godlike person. So what can he be compared to? So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says he can be compared to a tree whose branches are quite magnificent and splendid and numerous, but its roots are very minimal and weak. And he says about that kind of tree, any storm and any wind can come and knock that tree over on its face. However, and he contrasts this, he says, somebody whose ma'asim, his actions, his good deeds, his kindness, his good choices, his helplessness, his character traits, everything are wonderful, splendid, amazing, abundant, and great, but he might not be the greatest Talmud Chacham, he might not be the greatest scholar, he might not be the greatest intellect, he might not be someone who's considered to be such a genius or respected for his mind or his intellectual contributions. What can he be compared to? So he's compared to a tree whose branches, not so impressive. There's some branches there, a few branches, but the root system is solid and grounded and powerful. And about that person, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, no wind in the world can come and knock him over. So if you think about this analogy, when you look at the tree, the branches represent the part of the person that everybody sees and respects and looks up to. Oh, he's such an intellect. Oh, he's such a wonderful thinker. He's such a thought leader, or whatever it is, a great academic. He's a great author. He's a great historian. He's a great philosopher. And the roots are the part of the person that you don't see. The day in and day out kindness and acts of love and consideration and selflessness and godliness that he performs on a daily basis. So what's better? A tree with amazing, amazing branches, but the root system is so weak that's worthless and useless, because any wind, any new trend, any new idea, anything that's challenging, anything in life can come and boom, knock this tree over, and it's dead and it's useless. But a tree whose roots are solid and strong, it may not have the most impressive branches in the world, but that tree is here to stay. That tree will continue to grow and will continue to expand and will continue to produce. So the other lesson that we take away from trees that we can apply to ourselves is it's very important to be knowledgeable. It's very important to be intellectual. It's very important to pursue wisdom. It's very important to have, academic or intellectual pursuits, but that is never the main point in Judaism. Those are only valuable if they're built upon and based upon God-fearing, selfless, kindless, good-hearted people that are giving to other people and putting other people first. And if they're working on their midot and they're working on their actions and their kindness and their giving and all these things, then their wisdom is impressive. And the more wisdom they have, the more powerful and the more influential and the more important and the better they are. But if those actions and kindness and foundations and roots are not there, then the more wisdom and the more knowledge you have, the worse you are, because the easier you are to be toppled and destroyed. And that's another huge takeaway, I think, that we can think about when we think about trees on Tu B'Shvat. We prioritize. We think about what are our true priorities in life, and our true priorities in life are the roots, what's solid, the stuff that people don't see, not the things that are flashed across social media, but the real goodness and the kindness that we believe in and that we stand for and we commit to and sacrifice for. So those are the two lessons: the lesson of investment in the future for the world that will be after us, for the people that will walk this world after we're no longer here, and for ourselves in the future, in the world to come. That's one lesson. And the other lesson is that Judaism does not respect intellect and wisdom and knowledge and academic qualities unless they are based upon goodness, selflessness, kindness, and wholesomeness and godliness. Okay, that's what I want to share about trees. If anyone wants to comment on that or has any questions.
A question, David.
Yes.
The question is, how do you build a case for the intellect?
I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean? I mean, elaborate.
If action is everything, and
okay, I get it.
Attention, intellect.
So what's more impressive? What's better? What's better? A tree with solid roots and no branches that doesn't produce any fruit, but very solid branches, very solid roots, and a couple of branches, or a tree with very solid roots and tons of branches and tons of fruit and tons of produce. Which is better? Obviously, the second one is better, meaning the intellect and the knowledge and the wisdom and imparting knowledge and imparting information and being of great intellectual proficiency is amazing, and it is a very meaningful contribution, but only if and after the solid roots of kindness and selflessness and fear of God are there. If you have that, then for sure, then the intellect. I mean, we think about the great rabbis and the people that we learn from and that we admire and that we respect. We respect them because their roots are solid, because we know that they're coming from a place of goodness and kindness, and we know that the chesed that they're doing. People know Rabbi First. I'll use Rabbi First for an example. People know Rabbi First in Chicago. People know Rabbi First. He's the greatest rabbi in Chicago. He's the biggest halachic mind in Chicago. He's the leading authority on halachic matters in Chicago. People know that. What people don't know is that he created, started, founded, and maintained and built and developed one of the most robust chesed organizations in America, where they are giving away endless amounts of money and food and support for people. And he did this, and he raised money for it, and he built it, and he developed it, and it's huge. And it was all because of him. So when you know somebody like that, then his wisdom, his knowledge, his intellect is priceless. Okay. But if you take somebody who's brilliant and he's a great academic and he's a great philosopher or a thought leader, but in his personal life, he's cruel, or he's not selfless, or he's not kind, or he's immoral or whatever, something like that, then big deal, he knows a lot. Big deal, he's an intellect. Big deal, he's got what to contribute. I'm never going to listen to a word he has to say. I'm never going to learn anything from him. I'm never going to pursue him as my teacher, my role model in any way, because it's worthless. It's just self-glorification. It's like a tree that has these magnificent branches, but no roots. It's fake. It's a facade. Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So,
I would think of one quick example of that is somebody like Madoff, that he had big branches that everybody listened to, that all of a sudden he didn't have any base, and everything tumbled. So
great. That might be what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah had in mind when he wrote this Mishnah, Madoff. I can't think of a better example. That's a perfect example, because he's brilliant. He's a genius. He's incredible. Look what and he, by the way, he was brilliant. Clearly, if he pulled off what he pulled off, the guy was a brilliant genius.
yeah.
But yeah. Great example. Okay. So again, those are just two things that came to mind, but there's so many more things you can learn about trees and apply to people. Trees, if they're not flexible, they snap in the storm, they'll break. You have to have flexibility. Trees are only as valuable as the ground that it's planted in. You have to make sure that you're planting in the right soil. There's so many lessons and so on and so on and so on. I encourage you to think about it today on Tu B'Shvat. It's a great thing. Bring up with your friends, your family, or whatever, and go check out the event tonight. And I think it'll be really worthwhile. It's a great thing to do. Okay, so with that, I want to move back into our studying of the path of the just. And shoot, I didn't mark the spot last week. Are we on one? I don't know exactly where we are, maybe 176. Does anyone have the exact spot? Yeah, is that right, Ben? Is that 176? Okay, fine. So we'll start on 176. Okay. So what we're talking about over here is the Ramchal is talking about this concept of Nikius. Nikius is it's really looking at our lives in a much more granular way, and thinking about our actions that are pretty good. I'm a pretty good guy. I try to do things the right way. I keep the 10 commandments. Without mentioning any names, we once had a family member, my wife's family, no one in my family would ever say this, but she said, I keep the 10 commandments. I'm a good Jew. I keep the 10 commandments. And my wife said to her, but Shabbos is one of the 10 commandments. I don't think you keep Shabbos. She said, that's not in my 10 commandments. Okay, so whatever. But, we have the 10 commandments, and I'm a good person, and I keep the 10 commandments, and that's great, right? One of the commandments is don't steal. Great. Okay, but the Talmud tells us that if we're not careful and we're not applying Nikius, granular self-examination, then we are going to be stealing all the time. Granted, in subtle ways. Granted, in ways that people have generally come to accept as okay. Photocopying things in the office for personal use when, you don't have permission to do so. Or, watching videos or watching streaming on pirate channels where you're not paying for it, or using your friend's Netflix password when you haven't bought a net. Okay, there are a million ways that that we, are not so careful in the area of theft, and that's what the Ramchal is talking about. That's what Nikius means. Nikius means, okay, you're a good guy, you don't rob banks, but go a little deeper, look a little more carefully. Is there some area where maybe you are being less than perfect in your relationship to other people's property? So he gives an example. So in fact, the sages exempted those doing work for an employer from reciting the blessing of Hamotzi before eating their meal, and from reciting the latter blessings of Birchas Hamazon after they finish eating. I'll explain this in a minute, don't worry, because the extra moment spent reciting those blessings would constitute stealing time paid for by the employer. Okay, let me explain. We know that before we eat bread, we're supposed to wash our hands and say Al Natilat Yadayim. It's a special blessing that we say when we wash our hands for bread. After we eat bread, we know we say the Birkat Hamazon, the benching. Some people call it benching. And the first 3 blessings of benching are first 4 blessings of benching are, let's say, min ha-Torah. They're mandated by the Torah, and the following subsequent stuff is only added on later by rabbinical mandate. So if you're working for somebody else, you're on the clock, you're getting paid by the hour. I'm not talking about someone who's got a salary, and I'm not talking about somebody who's getting paid as a contractor for the job they're doing. I'm talking about someone who's getting paid by the hour. Okay, if you're a worker who's getting paid by the hour, then you're not allowed to do anything more than the bare minimum when it comes to your halachic obligations. So washing hands before you eat bread is a rabbinical law. And the rabbi said, if you always, before you eat bread, you wash your hands. But if you're working for somebody else on the clock, getting paid hourly wage, then in that case, don't wash your hands. Not required. Why? Because you're stealing time from your employer. The time that it takes to get up from your desk and to go walk over to the sink and to wash your hands and say the blessing and come back takes time. Don't do it, because that's time that you're getting paid for. It might be 30 seconds, it might be a minute, doesn't matter. And the benching, the Birkat Hamazon, the blessings that we say after we eat bread. In other words, you're allowed to stop and eat if you're working for a whole day, because you got to eat. But when you're saying the blessings afterwards, so you should stop at the point where it's no longer mandated by the Torah and it's only rabbinically mandated. The rabbi said, if you're working for somebody else on the clock, then don't say our additional blessings. Leave those out, because it's not fair. You're taking away from your employer. Okay, so that, how does that apply to us? If you're at work and you're getting paid, now not that many people get paid an hourly wage, that we know, maybe, whatever, maybe they do. But if you are, then you can't use that time that you're getting paid for your own personal stuff. You shouldn't be on Amazon buying things or searching the web for your own interesting things or streaming something or going on social media. If you're getting paid an hourly wage, you have to be working during that time. And if you're not, then that's a form of theft, a very subtle one, a very nuanced one perhaps, but theft nonetheless. Okay, and he says, and even with regard to recitation of the Shema, through which a person accepts upon himself the yoke of God's sovereignty, the sages obligated workers to stop working in order to concentrate fully only during the recitation of the first passage. The rest of the Shema, however, they recite while working. Okay, meaning when you say the first part, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Eloheinu Bo'ed. God is one. I'm accepting upon myself God's oneness. Okay, you need to concentrate there. That is your commitment to your belief in one God. That you got to concentrate on. You can't just say that while you're doing other stuff. But the rest, you can say that. You go back, then you go back to work and you finish saying the Shema without really concentrating if need be, so that you can go back to work, because you're on someone else's clock. You're on someone else, you're on the clock.
So, Rabbi, why wouldn't that apply to Birkas Hamazon? To say it to yourself while you're working.
Good. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. It's a good point. Good point. I don't know. Fair question. So now he says, if this is how scrupulous a person must be with his employer's time, even when it comes to mitzvah matters. Okay, we're talking about mitzvahs. God commands me to say the Shema. God commands me to say the blessings after the eating the bread, the Birkat Hamazon. And still, God says, okay, but only the minimal, and then go back to work because you're getting paid. If that's true for mitzvah matters, how much more so is it true with regard to optional matters? Okay, meaning things that are not mandated by the Torah. One second, I just want to look at one thing. Okay, so personal things, meaning, like I said, buying things on Amazon or searching the web or whatever. That anyone hired by the day worker is being paid for the time that he works, not for a job, but he's being paid hourly or whatever, he's forbidden to engage in these things so as not to neglect the work of the employer who's paying him for that time. And if he transgresses and engages in personal matters during work time, he is a thief. Okay, so that's pretty intense. And people will say, well, come on. it's just done. It's okay. It's done. Now, first of all, I want to point out that if your employer has a policy where it's okay, you don't have to be working every second that you're on the clock. You're allowed to take little breaks. You're allowed to check your email, personal email. You're allowed to, in between calls, if there's nothing coming in, you're allowed. That's fine. I'm talking about a situation where there's an expectation that in an hour you're working for an hour. In those situations, then if you stop working to do something personal, then you're taking money from somebody unjustly. And people say, but everybody does that. It's just the normal thing. That's exactly the point. That's what Nikios is. Nikios is to go that extra step and say, even though everybody else just does this, I don't. I'll give you a great example. I had a friend from Yeshiva, old friend, who I've kept in touch with for many years. He came to visit. He was here, came to Israel. His son, his daughter had a baby boy. They made a bris. He was here. He stayed with us for a couple of days. And then a couple of days ago, I got a message from him. David, he calls me David. Will you be mochel me? Will you forgive me? I think I accidentally took a pencil from your house. He's back in LA, took a pencil from my house. A pencil! Who cares? It's a stupid pencil, but wasn't his. He accidentally took it, and he wanted to make sure that I was mochel him, that I forgive him, that he was apologizing and want to know that, to make sure it was okay. So, of course I gave him a hard time. I'm like, actually, Brad, would you mind? Would you send it back to me send it back to me to Israel? But okay, that's the point. That's Nikios. That is Nikios. Okay. Okay. Additional illustrations of the standard of integrity that constitutes Nikios for an employee. Another way of, I like this idea. Let's refer to Nikios, at least in this context, as integrity, but not just generally accepted integrity, but the highest standard of integrity. So consider the story of the Amora. An Amora is somebody who was one of the rabbinical sages in the Talmud from the time of the Gemara, which means from the time that the Mishnah was completed, which was the year 200, until the time that the Talmud was sealed, which was the year 500. So anyone who's called an Amora is somebody who lived during that period of time and contributed to the writings of the Talmud in some way. So, oh gosh, these glasses are driving me crazy. Hold on a second. Okay, so the story of the Amora Abba Chilkiah, who, while working for an employer, would not even respond properly to the Torah teachers who greeted him. Okay, in other words, he's working, he's at his desk, or he's doing whatever he does, and Talmud Chacham, a great scholar, walks by and says to him, Shalom Aleichem Abba Chilkiah. He just wouldn't even look up. Why? Because he was getting paid an hourly wage, apparently, to do whatever work he was doing. So, and he did this so as not to neglect the work of his fellow who was paying him for his time. Okay. And our forefather Yaakov, this is a famous story in the Torah, peace be upon him, articulates this exalted level of integrity with his own mouth and says regarding his work for his father-in-law, this is how I was. He's speaking to Lavan now. And he says, Lavan, my father-in-law, Lavan, you can't make any complaints against me. Why? This is how I was. By day, scorching heat consumed me, and frost by night. My sleep drifted from my eyes. What does this mean? Look at number 13. 1 second. Yaakov's vigilance should not be attributed to his personal level of piety, for the Gemara derives that the legal responsibility of a paid watchman from Yaakov's conduct as an employee. Okay, whatever, fine. But meaning that he worked incredibly hard. He didn't stop. Okay. So that's Yaakov. What then will be the answer of those who are busy with their own pleasures during the time of work, which they neglect as a result? or if they attend to their own business during work hours, each man seeking his own dishonest gain. Okay, so I want to pause here. I want to see if anybody has any thoughts or comments on this, or examples from real life, or is this going too far? Is this too extreme? Does this seem realistic and appropriate? Is this something that we can strive to? What are your thoughts on this? You have to unmute yourself if you want to jump into this one.
David,
Yeah.
we've always been told that we have to live within the society that we are living in. So if someone walks up to you,
I want to challenge that. What is that exactly? What is that idea?
that there is some acceptable influence from our society, even though we're Jewish.
Even if society is doing something wrong and immoral.
No, but you've said it. You can't totally ignore the society in which you live.
Okay, fine. I'll give you
All
that.
right.
Okay.
So if you're working for somebody and he happens to be watching you work, and somebody comes in and says hello to you, and you ignore him, he's going to say, that could have been a really good customer. You treated him rudely, and that's not a good way to behave. So I think in today's society, Nikius might have a little softening over what you're discussing in the older days.
Well,
Right. The question is, what is the employer's expectation and what's built in allowances? And so you could argue that yes, being social, interacting with your colleagues for morale purposes, and that and there's an expectation that everyone will take a little bit of personal time during the day, and that I think as an employer, I think that's maybe built in. The question is, at what point does it become too extreme?
Right. I think that's a great point, right? So, and I really like that example. I think any employer would encourage a degree of socialization in the office, because it's good for team building, it's good for morale, it's good for building a united front in the office, and it's all about the expectations, right? And it's all about what's realistic, and it could also be that an employer has a realistic understanding that that I don't need 100% 60 minutes every hour out of my employers. I want to if I'm getting 50 minutes out of them, that's fine. They can have 10 minutes every hour to themselves to take a phone call or 10 minutes. But you need to know what's the expectation. It's important to know the expectation. And if for some reason the expectation is no, I want 60 minutes out of every hour for you, right? I don't want you getting up from your desk unless you have to go to the bathroom, period. And when you do, I want you to get to the bathroom and come right back, and that's it. If that's the expectation and you take the job under those circumstances, then that's your obligation. So it does all depend, and it's probably important to check that out in advance. Or if you're the employer, I think it's very important for you to be very clear with your employees what's expected and what's considered okay and what's not considered okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone else have any firsthand real life experience with this, where they were either on either side and they either made the right choice or the wrong choice? Mike?
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is I assume it's the same situation, but maybe an example that's a little bit more relevant in some of our lives is not the hourly employee, but if you work in an industry where you charge your client by the hour, I would assume the same rules would apply. You've charged them for 60 minutes. You got to give them 60 real minutes, not 50 minutes plus 10 minutes of Amazon searching.
If that is, yes, if that is what is expected, and if that is what is agreed to, then absolutely, like I'm just thinking of like a therapist, right? You pay for an hour, but if an hour is a 50-minute session. So there it's clear, it's called, coming for an hour session, but it's made known in advance that that hour session is 50 minutes of face-to-face time and maybe 10 minutes afterwards of charting or whatever. So that's okay because that's made clear. But yeah, I mean, and lawyers, look, put it this way, if they're going to send you a bill for 4.5 minutes because they sent 3 emails, then, which they do, or 10 minutes or whatever, 15 minutes, then if they're billing you for an hour, they better be working for an hour. Otherwise they're stealing from you. Absolutely. It does go that way. It works that way too, for sure. Okay. Any other input on this topic? Very relevant. Very relevant. Okay. Fine. So let's go a little bit further then. So he's gonna summarize this concept and give us the working principle, the takeaway concept. So the sum of the matter is, if one is the paid employee, if one is in the paid employ of his fellow, or any worker or any work whatsoever, sorry, let me start again. If one is in the paid employ of his fellow for any work whatsoever, all of his hours are thereby sold for that time to the employer. Like the concept that the sages of blessed memory expressed about the rental of utensils. Rental is tantamount to a sale for the day of the rental. Thus, whatever portion of that time he takes for his own benefit in any manner whatsoever is nothing but sheer theft. And if the employer does not forgive it, and it is not forgiven, then it is not forgiven by Hashem, even if the thief repents before him. I'll explain that in a minute, or he's going to explain it right here. For our sages of the blessed memory have stated unequivocally, sins that are between a man and his fellow, Yom Kippur does not atone until he appeases his fellow. So if this goes on, and this is what you're doing, then you need to apologize to your boss, your employer, and you need to say, can you forgive me for this? I realized I was making this mistake. I'm not going to do it anymore. I need your forgiveness. And if he forgives you, then you can go on Yom Kippur and say, Hashem, I stole. I used I used the time that I was getting paid and employed to do things that were for my own benefit, weren't for work. And I apologized to my boss. He forgave me. He gave me mechila. He forgave me, and now I'm coming to you, Hashem. But without that, then Yom Kippur doesn't help in the bein adam lechaveru, in the man-to-man mitzvos. Okay. Further insight into the gravity of theft of an employer's time. He's really going into this because I think it's just extremely relevant. I think it's something that probably every one of us is guilty of or has been guilty of at some point in some way or another. I mean, we did much worse. I remember I used to work at the Italian deli in downtown Los Altos, where I grew up. And when our boss would leave, we would go into the walk-in freezer and crack open Coors beers and drink them, and that, I mean, I got to call Nick and apologize to him and tell him, ask him for his forgiveness. Okay. Further insight into the gravity of theft of an employer's time. Moreover, even if one performed a mitzvah during the time of his neglect of work, okay? So you're not using your work time to go surfing on the internet or buying stuff on Amazon or checking your your social media accounts or whatever. You're using it to help somebody, to do a mitzvah, to do something of that, that's of godly nature, a mitzvah. But the mitzvah will not be considered a meritorious deed for him, right? You're at work, and let's say your boss isn't, well, you work from home and you're getting paid by the hour, and your neighbor, your neighbor sends you a message, hey, can you help me? I've got some groceries in the car. I can't carry them all in. She's an elderly woman. You normally help her, but you're getting paid by the hour, not the job, the hour. And you say, sure. And you go out, you leave your office, your home office, you go outside, you help your neighbor bring the groceries in. What a mitzvah. What a tzaddik. And then after 120 years, you get up to Shemayim, and you're all proud of that mitzvah, and you go and you look it up in your book of mitzvahs, and it's not there. It's not there because it's a mitzvah haba ba'avera. It's a mitzvah that you performed by means of a transgression. The transgression being stealing from your employer. Again, assuming that there's an expectation that you're working 60 minutes an hour. So what do? So you should tell her either log out, and officially take your break for that time, or send her a message and say, my break is in a half hour. Leave the groceries in the car and I'll come and get them, or whatever. Okay. So the mitzvah will not be considered a meritorious deed from. Rather, it is a transgression in his hand. For a transgression is not a mitzvah. And a verse written to this effect: for I am Hashem who loves justice, hates an olah offering brought with robbery. An olah offering was a sacrifice in the temple. You can't steal an animal, a sheep or a goat, and then take it to the temple in Jerusalem and offer it up as a sacrifice to Hashem. Hashem doesn't like that. That's not gonna be a mitzvah. That's a transgression. So too, this is considered to be a transgression, not a mitzvah. Even though you did a mitzvah, but the way you did it was by taking from your employer. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Okay, let's go drop further. The sages of blessed memory expressed a similar idea. Consider one who stole a sa'ah of wheat. A sa'ah is a measurement, a grain measurement. It's like a liter, and he ground it into flour. Okay, so you're a farmer. You go over and it's your neighbor's yard, and he's also a farmer, and you steal some wheat and you grind it into flour, and then you kneaded it and you baked it and it made a blessing upon separating challah from it, because when you make dough, when you make challah, you have to separate a certain amount off, and then you have to say a bracha, you say a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kishanu mitzvos tzivanu lahafrish challah isa min challah min isa. Okay, you make a bracha with Hashem's name. This person who did this, who made the bracha on the stolen challah, on the stolen wheat, is not blessing Hashem's name when he says the blessing. Rather, he's blaspheming him, because he's saying the blessing on the challah, on the wheat that he stole. As it is written, and a robber who makes a blessing, this is from Psalms, has blasphemed Hashem. And furthermore, about things of such nature, it is said, woe to this one whose defender has become his accuser. Meaning mitzvahs are supposed to serve to defend us. They're supposed to be there to our credit in the world to come. But this guy's mitzvah, his action, his good deed action of making challah, or making a blessing on the challah, is actually going to come and not act as his defender, but as his accuser. Because when he gets up to the world to come, it's going to be clear that he stole. As the sages of blessed memory said regarding the one who wishes to fulfill the mitzvah on Sukkot with a stolen lulav. You can't do that. You can't go, next door, and when your friend's in shul, let's say, and your friend's davening, and he walks out for a minute to go to the bathroom, and you steal his lulav, because they're expensive. And lulav and an esrog, they're expensive, the 4 species. So why should I buy one? I'll just steal my friend's. And you steal his lulav, and then you shake the lulav and the esrog on Sukkot. I'm doing a mitzvah. Oh yeah? Well, we'll see what happens when you get up to Shemayim after 120. I don't think that's going to show up on your mitzvah chart. It's going to show up on your transgression chart, because even though you're shaking the lulav and an esrog, but you stole it.
This is really dumb.
Right.
So that's the same idea. Okay, that's the same idea. All right, I think we're gonna hold here. And we
Question.
Yes.
So what about the example, somebody acquires money or in their business unethically, and then they try to donate it to charity? Does that not gonna, if the charitable contribution doesn't count, correct?
L'chaim Center will take your donations, but generally speaking, no, you are.
I'm just a poor doctor.
You are absolutely right. That's that you can't do that. You can't steal money and then give tzedakah. In fact, there were whatever. I don't want to mention any names, but there was a certain person in the Chicago community who gave a lot of money, a lot of money away, and then he got in some serious trouble, and went to jail or whatever. And all the organizations are like, now what do we do? Do we give the money back? Do we take his name off the buildings? It's a problem. Yeah. Scott, what do you say?
About 10 years ago, it was on the news. There's a company in Chicago called Water Saver Faucet. They manufacture a lot of faucets throughout the world. And this is the first time I ever really heard about this, where in their union negotiations, they were saying that their employees were stealing time when they went to the bathroom. And I was like fascinated by this. Like, what are they talking about? And if you read it, they're saying, yeah, we give them a 5-minute bathroom break and they're taking 10 minutes and we don't want that. And it's literally documented as stolen time. And that was like the first time it was put on my radar. You can Google it. The company's called Water Saver Faucet. It was about 10 years ago, and it was in the news about stolen time.
Wow,
About employees taking too long of a bathroom break.
Wow. I guess it makes sense. There's a limit, right? There's a limit. Wow.
So Rabbi, question, you mentioned the unnamed individual who was a big donor.
I think you know.
If there's suspicion on the part of the receiving organization that the money was earned or obtained through less than
ill-gotten means,
do they refuse?
Should.
Is it incumbent
Definitely
upon them
should.
to refuse it? Because you talked about after the fact, after he was outed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
What about after the fact? Would you, if you didn't know and honestly took would you try to seek out the people that maybe it was stolen from and try to, in a way, use that money to help their lives?
Yeah, look, here's the thing, like, it's very tricky. Like, let's say the guy is a crook, and he committed crimes and made a lot of money doing it, but he probably also made a lot of money legally too. So how do I know if the money he donated to my organization came from the 13th floor or the 14th floor or whatever it was? You know what I mean? It's
Money, yeah.
right. So I guess you could try to justify it.
Rationalization, yeah.
Right. Mine came, my money that Bernie gave me came from the 13th floor, not the 14th floor, whatever,
So you just take his first name off the building.
No, take the last name off the
Oh,
bill.
last name, okay.
But it's a good question. I would say that if you're honest and you're scrupulous and you feel that this money is just tainted and you should not take it. And I like your idea too, Mike, that if you did take it and it's too late, so giving it back to him, give the money back to the guy, what's that going to achieve? It's stolen money. But if you can figure out who it was stolen from somehow and try to benefit them, that would be, a great thing, I think. So, yeah. All right. Wishing everyone a great week. Shavua Tov. If you go tonight, let me know how it was. It should be really nice. I'm sure.
Yeah,
6:30.
Shavua Tov.
Okay.
Are you eating Buxer?
I got to go find some. I'd like to. I haven't gone out to the market yet to see what's out there.
Hard to find.
What kind of fruits are there traditionally?
Well, Buxer is eaten. Buxer is carob. It's pretty popular relating to Tu B'Shvat carob, dried carob. But the truth is that really, ideally, what you should try to eat is one of the fruits from the 7 species that grow in Israel. So that would be, pomegranates, dates, figs, those kind of things. So, all right, perfect. I'm gonna sign off. See everybody later,
that's funny.
hopefully in
Thank
the
you.
week.
All right, Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Okay. Everyone can jump off if you can, because I have a
Shavua Tov.
Your video's not on.
Shavua Tov. Hi, guys. Steve, I have a
Hello,
meeting.
Rabbi.
Can I call you? Gonna be around later?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have exciting news for you.
Oh, great. You coming to Israel?
She committed to U of I.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. It's not
All
Madison.
right.
It's not Madison, but it's next
Well,
step.
Madison did not give her a fair shake, so she's a little mad at Madison.
Okay.
It's
And
literally like they accepted 3 people from her school.
it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
They're snobs. They're snobs.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
See
I'll
ya.
talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Hi, guys.
Hey, Rabbi.
Hi, Rabbi.
How are you?
Good. So good to see you.
You are looking good.
Oh, my long white beard that
Yeah.
Allie threatens to shave off my face in the middle of the night.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she hates it. That's okay. But what's going on with you guys?
Not so much. We're excited for our trip.
Yeah, we're excited
Right.
too. We are
Yeah.
super excited. So it's funny, like Mimi's coming the week before. Are you guys gonna overlap with her at all, or?
Yeah, you know what happened? So a friend of ours, mutual friend, their daughter's getting married in Israel, in Haifa, on March 2nd. And we had already had our trip planned, and we were trying to figure out how
Oh,
we could get there. We're really upset that she picked the week before.
that's terrible.
Yeah, that was very,
It was so rude, you know? She was wanting January, and we're like, perfect, we'll go in and out in January and it'll be great. And then she couldn't find a venue, and then February she couldn't find
Oh,
and so it kept getting pushed back and back, and then we were crushed. We were like, so yeah,
that's a bummer.
yeah,
Such
just
a bummer.
yeah, it
You
is
guys-
disappointing.
You guys arrived the 9th, is that right? Thursday night, then Thursday the 9th?
Yes.
Okay, do you know what time your flight gets in, or which flight? Are you doing the United flight, or?
So no, we're coming in on LL, and our flight gets in, I think, around 10:30, like in the morning.
Okay,
But there's a possibility that we may stop. The parents of the bride are still going to be in Israel. So they're in Jerusalem. We may stop on our way to see them. We're not exactly sure what's happening Thursday.
okay.
So can we let
Fine.
you know?
Yeah, of course.
Time?
of
Is there
course.
is there a time that's better than another for us to get by you?
Anytime is fine. Anytime is fine. If you want to, if you guys want to come early, we'll go have dinner, or go do something at night. If you come after dinner, anything is fine. Are you guys? Are you gonna rent a car, or are you gonna use the train or what? Yeah, the train.
yeah,
is
we are not renting a car.
We do not drive in Israel.
Okay, the train is super easy. The train from the airport comes right to downtown Jerusalem. So it's
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
Where does it come right into by the bus terminal?
right by the
No.
bus terminal, right across the street from the bus terminal. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's like 22 minutes. It's super easy. Okay, so
Great.
that's great. So then you'll come to us sometime on Thursday. Maybe, depending on what you're doing, maybe we'll meet you guys in town for, a bite, and then bring you back to the house or whatever. And then Friday, what's going on Friday?
so Friday, we do not have anything.
I mean, I guess our thought was we don't have a plan.
Yeah.
We're not
And-
so organized. So,
and-
but like we were just, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, we don't want to interfere with you if you've got
Yeah,
whatever
we
you've
figured
got
we'd be
going
on
on.
our own Friday,
Well-
go to the market or go shopping or
Yeah.
just kind of hang out or whatever. So we figured Friday was a busy day for you guys, and we would just,
Okay, so I mean, Fridays are usually a little hectic, but let's see, 1 second. Shabbos comes in. Yeah, it's still early. Still comes in at 5 or something, whatever. So there's two things.
Yeah.
Either we could try to get super organized and then maybe go for like a hike or something, or do something, something nice outdoors, or just, we live like on the forest. There's this beautiful forest, like we could go do that. Or if you guys wanted to be ambitious and try to utilize the day, then we could schedule like something for you guys to see in Jerusalem, like the Begin Museum, or something maybe you haven't seen, or I'm assuming Yad Vashem you probably been to, don't have a need to go to, whatever, but there might be something to see or do on Friday that you guys might want to do, or you might want to just chill out and lay low, whatever you guys
What?
want to do. If you want to be ambitious.
What about like last time we were there, we wanted to get to the Mount Herzl, the cemetery.
So
But is that doable from?
yeah, it's very
I didn't
doable. Going there is great. Like, I wonder if there's look, maybe you guys can Google it too. I wonder if there's an
Yeah.
English, see if there's an English tour or something, or because Mount Herzl without a tour is just a mountain with a lot of graves. But if you go
Okay.
with somebody who really knows it, and unfortunately I really don't know Mount Herzl that well, but if you go with somebody who knows, or maybe they have their own guides or whatever, it can be incredible, because first thing, you can of course see all the graves of all the prime ministers and everything, but then there's section where soldiers were buried from the 6-Day War, and soldiers are buried from the War of Independence, and then there's stories, amazing stories, whatever. So you could do that. You could hire a private guide and do that, but that's expensive also. But that's one thing that's worth doing for sure.
Okay.
I can
Yeah,
be,
we can.
I can be around on Friday. I mean, for sure for a few hours we could go on an adventure on Friday, because I'm not usually under that much pressure on Fridays, but Allie usually is. So we'll see. Or if you want
Right,
to
and
go, if you want to go to the old, if you want to wake up in the morning and go to the old city, that's super easy from our house. You can jump on a bus and get right to the old city. So you could do that if you wanted to. Whatever you guys, whatever.
Okay,
works good.
that sounds good too.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then it's Shabbos, and you're gonna be with us for Shabbos, which will be amazing. And then we have Sunday. Sunday is our big day. So we should talk about Sunday. But before we talk about Sunday, what happens after Sunday? What's the rest of the week? Where?
So Monday, we meet up with our tour
In Tel
Oh,
Aviv.
in Tel Aviv.
okay,
So Sunday, we'll be going to Tel Aviv Sunday.
okay. So Monday you meet with the tour. Monday.
Right.
Right, but we're overnighting Sunday in Tel Aviv, so we'll be
there.
we'll be there.
Okay, good. That's good to know, because then we can think about. You know what? So I didn't know there was a tour. I should probably look at the itinerary of the tour so that we can do something that's not on the itinerary.
So, okay, yeah, so we're going with the JLI trip,
Oh, okay, great.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So we're going north for 2 days, like
Okay.
around the Kinneret. We're doing like the Tel Dan, the
Okay.
Yeah, one of the other.
Tel Hai, I think it's
Oh,
called,
Telfast,
and
nice. Okay, great.
right, and then
So that's like Monday, Tuesday kind of thing?
it's Monday, right, and then we're going to Shiloh, God willing, on Tuesday,
Okay,
and some other stuff
Mhm.
like that.
okay.
And then we end up in Jerusalem for the rest of the trip and go out from there.
Do you have your itinerary right now that you could send me? You have
So
like
it's kind of confusing because the itinerary, it's like a very cool trip that you can pick what you want to do each day.
Oh, okay.
So like,
I just don't want to double up on anything. So like, are you going to Gush Etzion? Are you going to
so
Hebron?
Gush we did with Avi. You hooked us up with Avi on our
Yeah.
last trip,
Yes.
which
yes.
was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
That
You
was
spent a lot
amazing.
of time in the Gush with Avi, right? I remember that.
Right, and we are going to Hebron and Rachel's Kaver.
Okay, okay, fine.
And yeah. There's to
Anything,
Shiloh,
okay.
that was, and
Shiloh,
right, that's will be
Yeah.
in the Golan and Hebron and I'm not being very helpful, am I? Because I don't have, but I can send you. I'm like, we were talking too, that we've never really seen like the nature, or like the Israel beauty.
Amazing.
Like we've not gone to any like nature park. We've been to Mitzvah Ramon Crater
Okay.
and the
Wait,
Hula
guys,
Valley.
1 second. Allie's leaving. I just want
Yep.
to tell her something quickly before she runs out, and then I'm gonna.
Oh, go, go, go.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Are you leaving right now?
What's our packet? What happened to the packet with the actual tour printed out? It's all, that was from Iowa. That never made it back in here. Yeah, when we took it with us to Iowa. And it never made it back in. I've got LL stuff, but all I have is this piece of paper. So what are we doing? Oh, Friday, you're learning, right? And Claire and I are going to Rachel's tomb. San Michelle. The West Bank. So wait, Monday we're doing,
So really, with Rabbi David, we're looking for a couple hours Friday, maybe. It's Sunday.
I don't think it'll be on.
I don't mind.
Okay, have fun, guys.
Friday, I don't mind being on my own,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Let them do their
Right.
thing. We don't wanna like,
A hike
Okay.
would be nice.
Back, sorry about that. So.
No, no problem.
So nature, okay, so that's great, because first of all, by March, it should be really, a month from now, it should be really nice. So in terms of nature, so we could do so much. We could, we could go, there's so many great hikes that we could go on. There are, I mean, are you guys into like, I'm not talking about hardcore.
No,
not
absolutely.
hardcore.
That sounds great. That's,
Okay.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
why don't we plan, I actually have a couple of really good ideas. We'll plan a nice hike. Maybe like, I know this place is like this great like pizza place that's like out on like a cliff overlooking the Judean hills. We can go sit there and like have lunch, go on a hike, do something really nice. There's some cool caves that we could go to. There's a lot of really cool things. And then yeah, and then maybe we'll make our way towards Tel Aviv, or we'll just stick around here, and then you'll just jump on the train, in the afternoon, and or the evening or whatever, and go to Tel Aviv.
That sounds
So that's
amazing.
great. That's
Yeah.
perfect. That's perfect.
right, and so you have your class that you teach Sunday. So
Ooh,
we'll head out like before, let's,
Yeah, we don't,
we'll head out before then,
well before that, so
so that you
have
can
your-
do your thing.
my
Yeah, we don't
class
want to
is-
interrupt your life. I feel like we
Right.
don't want to overtake your
You're
time.
you're not overtaking it all. But I forgot about classes at 5:30. Okay, so then we'll get up early and we'll have a nice day. We'll do a good hike. We'll go have a nice lunch somewhere. Allie will be available because she doesn't have anything on Sundays. She's usually free, so she'll take, clear up.
Oh,
The
nice.
4 of us will go. It'll be awesome. Yosef will be in school. We don't have to worry about him. So that's awesome. That's really, really nice. And then fine, yeah, and then you guys I'll get you to the train by 5 o'clock or something, and you'll get to Tel Aviv by 6 and settle in there.
Yeah, we might actually have to scale that back a little earlier because we have this amazing tour planned in Tel Aviv,
Which you're invited to come if
but
you,
it won't work though. The Milk and Honey Distillery Tour.
Oh, really? What time is that at?
I think we have
Yeah.
I think 5 o'clock we have, but
Oh.
if we don't make that, we don't make it.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
That sounds nice.
yeah, we don't have to do
Yeah, we
that.
don't have to do that
If
at all.
there's beauty in Israel to be seen, we will go
Pass
see the
on the
beauty.
distillery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, fine, we'll play it by ear, but that's all great.
Yeah.
And then when does the trip go until? The following?
When do we go home?
We go home Monday night. Is it
20th.
20th? I think that,
Like,
yeah, like
At 1 a.m. So it's really
Tuesday, like 1 a.m. is our flight out.
Okay. Okay, great. And then that second Shabbos, where are you guys staying? Where are you staying in Jerusalem? Somewhere near the old city?
Yeah,
The Waldorf.
Oh, that's great.
Astoria.
That's so nice.
Yeah, right across. Yeah.
Perfect. So
So that's,
you'll go to the old city for Shabbos. That's awesome.
yeah.
Amazing. You guys are gonna love it. It's great. It's great. It's a great trip.
We're already loving it.
Yeah. it's awesome. Okay, super
So-
exciting.
All
And,
right.
and by the way, just in terms of my fees, I charge 1 Romanian salami for
So,
my,
I wanted to ask you, that's really funny because I said to
that's all I
Howie,
want.
what,
That's all
am I
want.
allowed to bring that into the
No,
country though?
no, you're not.
I didn't think so.
That's why it's a, it's a high fee. But the worst that happens is they confiscate it. But the truth is, I'll tell you the real truth. The real truth is, this is a secret. Don't tell anybody this because we haven't, for some reasons, we haven't really publicized this yet. But we are coming to Deerfield, Chicago for Pesach.
You
So
are?
we're actually coming on the 29th. So therefore, I don't need you to bring me a Romanian salami. I'll be able to stock up when I get there.
What is that, March 29th?
Then how do you bring it into the country? You can't bring it in either.
I bring them in. No, they don't stop you. And if they do, they take it. All they do is they take it.
You don't get put on some terrorist list or something
I don't
that
think
you.
so. Should the Fauda guys, Daron shows up at my house in the middle of the night. And,
Give me the salami.
Yeah.
So I can put it in my suitcase and just, all I risk is my clothes smelling like salami
That's
forever.
it. No, you don't bring one because I'll be able to stock up when I get home.
All right. Is there anything that you do want that we could
No.
bring? Okay.
They have
No, some
everything here.
American blue jeans, anything?
American blue jeans.
Everything, you can get everything here, and whatever you can't get now, you get on Amazon. The only thing you can't get
Right.
is the Romanian salami. They started doing Amazon here, which is
Oh,
Oh,
they
good
did.
and bad. Good and bad.
Yeah.
It's good,
Yeah.
but it's bad for for
local business, sure.
local business. But it's not like Amazon where you click and then you hear a knock on the door like 30 seconds later. It takes like 2 weeks, to get here. So, but yeah. Baruch Hashem, it's great.
Is that instead of 2-day shipping, it's 2-week shipping?
2-week
That's what you
shipping,
pay
yeah.
extra for? Yeah.
Yeah.
All
All right. Well, amazing. That's really great. And we have it's so exciting. We have Mimi coming to us for Shabbos. Well, she's coming to
Oh, the
Shabbos.
week before.
Yeah, the Shabbos before. And Leslie Grant is coming the 1 week or 2 weeks before that. Do you know Leslie Grant? Isn't Leslie Grant?
No.
I don't think we do.
She's awesome. She's a good friend of ours from L'Chaim Center. So
From L'Chaim Center?
yeah,
Yeah, I might know her face, but yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah.
So tell me about the shul you daven at tonight. Nice
So
Of course it's nice.
we daven. It's interesting. It's an interesting question. So when I got here, there were like 3 guys that were looking to start a new shul, and it was sort of like very much what I was looking for also. So I kind of jumped in with these 3 guys and we started this new shul, which it's been going for about a year, a little less than a year and a half. Right now we daven in a kindergarten class, like in this little gan right down the street from our house, which is not ideal, but it's big enough. It's fine for now. We're a small group. We're like 30 people, 30, 40 on a Friday night. But it's really nice. It's Karlebach Friday night, great singing, beautiful, like really, really nice. Good divrei Torah. It's nice. It's a good group of guys, really, and women, men and women. It's really, really nice. So it's connected to the main shul. Instead of doing it as like a break off, we approached the main shul and asked if we could have like a minyan under the sort of umbrella of the main shul, and they were happy to do that because they didn't want to break off and we didn't want to break off. But the main shul is like old, stodgy kind of place. It's like an old American place where people like made Aliyah like 50 years ago, and it's really boring and they don't sing and they don't, there's nothing exciting about it. So we didn't want to like start a whole, break off because that's not good, but we wanted to like invigorate a little bit. So that's what we do.
Oh, nice.
You'll love it. It's really fun. It's great.
Good. Sounds great.
So does Allie usually go to shul with you
No,
Saturdays?
she goes to the other shul. Ali and Yosef go to the other. There's another shul, which is also a really nice shul, but the other shul is temporarily out of. They don't have a space. They lost their space, so they're looking for us. But I'm sure by the time you guys are here, they'll have a space. So Ali goes there. super nice. And these are both English. These are the two English shuls in the community. There's a million Israeli shuls too, but as far as like the English, where you have a big English speaking crowd, there's these two. So she goes to the other one. So you'll be able to pick and you'll choose. You'll see you'll see. But it's nice, really nice. Shabbos here is beautiful, especially in March. We're right on the forest. We take a walk in the forest in the afternoon. It's super special. It's really nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Good
we can't wait to hear everything that's going on, and we'll lot to catch up on. But we'll see you guys in a month. And then if anything comes up between now and then, or questions or whatever, let me know. But that sounds like a great plan for that day. That's awesome.
Right. And same by you. If something comes up that you need to do, don't worry about us. We are self-sufficient and we
Fine.
can,
Fine, but I'm looking forward
Okay.
to it. For me, like being with friends and walking in the Judean hills is like, that's my happy place. So I'm
That's
great.
good. That sounds great.
all right, awesome.
Okay.
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Okay.
All
we'll
right,
be in
have a
touch.
good week.
Okay, you guys.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.